There's a quiet moment before every downfall. It's not the moment someone insults you, not the moment someone betrays you. It's the moment you react, the instant your blood heats, your chest tightens, and your mind begins to race. That's when control slips away. Not to fate, not to circumstance, but to the person who learned how to pull your strings. Every time you explode in anger, they win. Every time you rush to explain yourself, to prove, to defend, to correct, they win again. Because power is never in the words spoken, it's in the one who decides when to speak and when to stay silent. We live in an age where reaction has become a currency. Outrage feeds algorithms. Emotions sell. Society has trained you to respond instantly, to fight, to argue, to justify, to defend every corner of your fragile ego. You've been made to believe that silence means weakness, that calm means apathy. But the truth is the opposite. The more reactive you are, the more predictable you become. And the more predictable you are, the easier it is for others to control you. They don't need to understand you. They just need to know your triggers, your pride, your insecurities, the words that make your voice tremble, the moments that make your heart burn. Once they find those, they own you. Think about it. How many times have you regretted the words you said in anger? How many nights have you replayed a moment, wishing you had just paused? That single pause could have changed everything. One deep breath could have saved you from weeks of shame. But instead, you reacted and gave them the pleasure of watching you lose control. A Stoic once said, "When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Because the true battlefield isn't out there, it's within you. The war is not between you and them, it's between your reason and your reaction." You see, weak reactions are not just emotional mistakes, they are openings. Openings for manipulation, for exploitation, for disrespect. Every time you react without thought, you hand them the keys to your inner fortress. You turn yourself from the master of your mind into the toy of someone else's game. Most people don't realize it until too late. Until they're exhausted from the constant cycle of being provoked, defending themselves, apologizing, and starting again. Like a puppet pulled by invisible strings, they don't see that their emotions aren't being expressed. They're being used. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. They trained not to suppress emotion, but to command it, to pause before the storm, to separate what happens from what they choose to feel about it. They knew that true power begins where reactivity ends. So the question is simple. When someone provokes you, who wins your peace or their manipulation, that is the real test. Not whether you can speak louder, but whether you can remain unmoved. Because the price of reacting too fast is always the same. You lose yourself. There's a kind of slavery that doesn't use chains. It doesn't lock you in a cell or take away your freedom of movement. It hides inside your reactions. It's the slavery of emotion, the kind where your peace depends entirely on what others say, do, or think about you. Most people walk through life chained to this invisible leash. Someone frowns at them and their heart sinks. Someone praises them and they feel alive again. They scroll through social media and allow strangers to dictate how they should feel about their own lives. They become a reflection of the world's noise, not of their own reason. The Stoics called this attachment pathe, the passions that enslave the mind: anger, envy, pride, fear, validation. Each one a hand around your throat. You think you're expressing yourself. You think you're standing up for your beliefs, but in truth, You're being pulled by forces outside your control. Imagine living in a world where every insult, every rumor, every disapproving look has the power to ruin your day. That's not freedom, that's dependence. You become a prisoner of other people's moods. Your peace belongs to whoever can upset you the fastest. Epictetus said, "When we are offended, we are complicit in our own harm." What he meant is simple. No one can disturb your peace without your consent. Yet we give that consent so easily, with a single reaction, with a single impulsive response. Think of how many people spend their lives reacting to headlines, to opinions, to gossip, to criticism that doesn't even matter. They wake up every day and hand their peace to the next person who irritates them. Their emotions rise and fall like tides controlled by someone else's moon. And they call this being human, but the Stoics called it being untrained. When your mind is ruled by emotion, you're not living, you're surviving. You're constantly defending, explaining, proving, fighting, pleasing. You exist only in relation to others' behavior. You've forgotten what it feels like to be still inside yourself. It's no wonder the world feels exhausting. We are addicted to reaction checking our phones, arguing with strangers, proving points that don't matter. Each small trigger chips away at our composure until there's nothing left but anxiety and exhaustion. You can see this everywhere. In the man who screams in traffic because someone cut him off. In the woman who loses sleep over a comment online. In the worker who spends hours replaying what his boss said. They all share the same disease dependence on external validation. This is what emotional slavery looks like. You think you're fighting others, but you're only fighting yourself. You let your anger do the talking, your pride do the thinking, your fear do the choosing. And when the smoke clears, you realize it was never them holding you back. It was your own inability to stay still. Freedom, in Stoic terms, is not doing whatever you want. It's not shouting your truth louder than others. It's the quiet mastery of not needing to. It's the power to remain untouched by insult, unaffected by praise, and unshaken by chaos. The problem is not that people try to provoke you. The problem is that you still believe you must respond. The world will always throw stones, but the Stoic mind builds walls from them. You think it's coincidence the way certain people always seem to draw a reaction out of you. It's not. They know where your weaknesses live. They've studied the cracks in your armor, the tones that make your voice shake, the memories that ignite your rage. They know how to press just the right button to make you explode, defend, or surrender. And here's the truth. Most people never want to face. If someone can predict your reaction, they already control you. This is how manipulation works, not through force, but through emotional predictability. A single sarcastic remark, and your blood boils. A subtle withdrawal of affection, and you start chasing. A bit of guilt, and you bend backward to please. You think you're acting freely, but you're simply reacting according to their script. It's an invisible dance, one where you're always a step behind. They lead, you follow. They provoke, you perform. And the cruel part is, the more emotional you become, the more powerless you feel. You can sense something isn't right, but you can't stop yourself. You keep playing the game you secretly despise. We see this everywhere. In relationships where one person thrives on control, in workplaces where bosses manipulate loyalty through fear, in friendships where guilt and silence are used as weapons. Emotional slavery doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it wears the smile of someone who just wants to help, or the calm of someone who knows. You'll always cave. When you live at the mercy of emotional triggers, you become the perfect target. You're easy to provoke, easy to flatter, easy to break. And the worst part, you start to confuse your reactions with your identity. You start saying, "That's just who I am. I'm emotional." No, that's who you've become, because you stopped protecting your inner balance. The Stoics saw through this centuries ago. They called such people slaves of passion, not because their feelings were evil, but because their feelings ruled them. They understood that emotions are tools, not masters. That anger, fear, and desire are natural forces, but when left untrained, they become chains. Senetzarot, most powerful is he who has himself in his own power. It sounds simple, but look around how few people actually live this way. We've mistaken sensitivity for depth and volatility for authenticity. But the more we glorify emotional impulsiveness, the more we hand over control to anyone willing to exploit it. The manipulation never ends, because it doesn't need to. The world will always find a way to provoke the unguarded mind. There will always be someone who tests your patience, questions your worth, mocks your silence, or plays the victim to twist your guilt. They don't even need to be evil. They just act according to human nature, and human nature loves control. But the Stoic refuses to dance. He sees the game, yet chooses not to play. He observes the bait, yet does not bite. His silence is not weakness, it's awareness. His calm is not surrender, it's strategy. Every reaction you give feeds the system that keeps you enslaved. Every time you respond with anger, you confirm their power. But when you withhold reaction, the entire game collapses. Because manipulators depend on one thing, your cooperation. Imagine the strength it takes to stay unmoved, to hear the insult, feel the heat rise, but still breathe through it, to see the provocation, recognize it, and let it pass. That's not apathy. That's discipline. That's freedom. Because once you stop reacting, they lose their grip. You stop being their toy. And that's when true control begins, not over others, but over yourself. Daniel used to think strength meant speaking louder. That victory belonged to the one who could argue longer, defend harder, and never back down. In his world, silence felt like defeat. So every time someone challenged him, he reacted fast, sharp, emotional. It made him feel alive. It made him feel powerful. But what he didn't see was that every reaction was a string being pulled, every outburst, a sign of weakness disguised as passion. He worked in a busy office, under a boss who understood this better than he did. The man never shouted, never raised his voice. He simply knew how to plant words that would burn. A single question about Daniel's commitment, a hint that someone else was doing better, and Daniel would snap. He'd argue, justify, and storm out, while his boss quietly observed, untouched. The next day, Daniel's reputation sank a little lower. People whispered that he was unstable, too emotional. His work suffered. His peace disappeared. For months, Daniel repeated this pattern. Provoked, react, insulted, defend, ignored, overcompensate. Every reaction became a weapon turned against him, until one day, after another pointless argument, he sat alone in the break room, his hands still trembling, his chest tight. He looked at himself in the reflection of a glass wall, red-eyed, tense, exhausted, and realized he wasn't angry at his boss. He was angry at his own weakness. That night, He stumbled across a line from Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The words lingered. Power over your mind, not over others, not over outcomes, just over yourself. So Daniel began to train not in the gym, but in the quiet battles no one sees. Every morning he practiced silence. Every evening he replayed the day and asked, "What did I let control me today?" The next time his boss threw an insult, Daniel didn't react. He heard it, felt it, but let it pass. He noticed the urge to explain himself rise, then fade. The room went quiet, and something strange happened. His boss's smirk disappeared. The power dynamic shifted. For the first time, Daniel wasn't playing his game. He wasn't feeding the fire. He had become the observer, not the puppet. Days turned into weeks. People began to notice a change. Daniel spoke less, but with more weight. He acted with precision, not impulse. When colleagues tried to provoke him, he responded with calm, logic or not at all. And those who once toyed with his emotions started avoiding him. Not out of respect at first, out of confusion, because nothing disarms manipulation faster than indifference. Eventually, the same boss who used to provoke him now asked for his opinion. Meetings grew quieter when Daniel spoke. He no longer needed to fight for his place. His composure did it for him. But what changed was not the world, it was his posture toward it. Daniel realized the calmest man in the room often has the most power, because calm cannot be faked. It's built through restraint, through discipline, through the daily decision to remain unshaken, no matter what comes. He learned that true strength doesn't roar. It doesn't need to. It's the stillness that absorbs the storm and refuses to break. Daniel never became emotionless. He became aware. He still felt anger, frustration, pride, but they no longer controlled his actions. They became signals, not masters. And that small shift transformed his entire life. In time, he understood what the Stoics meant when they said, "The greatest victory is to conquer oneself, because the one who can stay calm when provoked, the one who doesn't react when others expect him to, that person has already won the only battle that matters." And that's when Daniel stopped being a player in someone else's game. He became the master of his own calm. The Stoics believed that every man lives within two worlds, the outer world of events and the inner world of response. The first is chaos, unpredictable, and never truly yours. The second is order, the only domain you can command. Most people spend their entire lives trying to control the first and neglect the second. They fight storms they cannot calm and abandon the walls they could have fortified. To the Stoic, mastery begins not with power over others, but with governance of the self. This is the inner fortress. It cannot be built overnight, and it cannot be inherited. It's built each time you pause when others rush, each time you choose reason over rage, each time you hold your peace when someone tries to steal it. The first step is awareness. To realize that your emotions are not you, they are visitors. They come, they shout, they demand attention, but they leave when ignored. You don't have to entertain them all. The Stoics taught that between stimulus and response lies a sacred pause, a brief space in which your freedom lives. That moment, when the insult lands, when the urge rises, when the pride screams to reply, that's your battlefield. In that pause, you decide who you are. You can choose to react like the untrained or to remain unmoved, Like the disciplined, you can let the world dictate your behavior, or you can rule yourself like a king, rules his city with clarity, not emotion. Marcus Aurelius called it the citadel of the soul. He wrote, "The mind unconquered by passion is a fortress no one can take." That is the Stoics' true armor, not arrogance, not detachment, but discernement. When you can stand among chaos and still think clearly, you are untouchable. To build this fortress, you must practice 3 disciplines. First, the discipline of perception. See things as they are, not as your emotions paint them. Someone insults you. That's merely sound waves hitting your ears, not an assault on your worth. A setback at work, that's an event, not a verdict on your identity. Train yourself to separate what happened from what you feel about it. Most of our suffering comes not from reality itself, but from the stories we tell about it. Second, the discipline of action. Act with reason, not reaction. When emotions rise, slow down. Count to 3 before speaking. Breathe before responding. The Stoics weren't cold, they were deliberate. They believed composure was not suppression, but direction, channeling emotion into purpose. Even anger can be a servant when guided by reason, but it's a tyrant when left free. Third, the discipline of will. Accept what you cannot control and strengthen your endurance toward it. Life will provoke you endlessly. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. Outcomes will betray your hopes. The Stoic doesn't pray for ease, he prays for resilience. He doesn't seek to silence the world, he seeks to quiet his reaction to it. Seneca once wrote, "He who angers you conquers you." Every time you take the bait, you surrender the keys to your own mind. But when you stay calm, the power returns to you. You become the master of the moment, not its victim. This doesn't mean you become indifferent to life. The Stoic feels deeply, he just refuses to drown in it. He observes anger without becoming it. He faces chaos without fearing it. He lives by principle, not impulse. So when provoked, remember this. Your reaction is your responsibility. You don't control the insult, but you control your dignity. You don't control the storm, but you control your footing. You don't control their actions, but you control your peace. Every calm choice adds another stone to your inner fortress, and brick by brick, your mind becomes a citadel no one can breach. When you reach that point, no manipulation can touch you. You can be insulted without injury, praised without pride, tested without turmoil. You move through the world like a man made of iron and silence firm, awake, untouchable, because in the end, the strongest walls are not built from stone, they're built from discipline. There's a kind of strength that never needs to announce itself. It doesn't roar in arguments or rise in anger. It moves quietly, like a mountain unmoved by the wind. That's the strength of stillness, the kind that Stoicism teaches, the kind the modern world has forgotten. We live in a culture that mistakes noise for influence and speed for progress. Everyone wants to be heard, seen, validated. But the more you chase attention, the more you lose authority. Because power isn't about being loud. Power is about being grounded. When the crowd shouts, the man who stands still becomes impossible to ignore. Stillness is not laziness. It's precision. It's knowing when something deserves your energy and when it doesn't. It's walking away from pointless battles because you understand that not every war is worth your peace. It's being aware that silence can cut deeper than words, that calm can disarm faster than fury, Think of the last time someone tried to provoke you. Maybe they wanted to test your patience. Maybe they wanted to see if they could make you lose control. When you stayed calm, didn't they lose their footing? Didn't their certainty fade when they realized they couldn't shake you? That's the paradox of control. You gain it. The moment you stop trying to control everything, the Stoics understood that mastery over others is fragile, but mastery over self is absolute. When you're unmoved by chaos, you're no longer part of it. You rise above it. In that silence, you become dangerous, not because you intend harm, but because you cannot be manipulated. The one who can stay still while others tremble holds all the leverage. People don't know what to do with someone who doesn't react. They try harder, push stronger, and when nothing works, they crumble. The world expects you to fight back, to prove, to respond, but the Stoic fights differently. He wins by not participating in nonsense. He wins by walking away when the argument no longer serves truth. He wins by keeping peace in a place everyone else has lost it. Seneca said, "A wise man is content with himself." That doesn't mean arrogance. It means he no longer seeks permission to be calm. He no longer depends on others to validate his composure. His worth doesn't rise and fall with opinion. His peace is self-sufficient. When you reach that state, you stop being reactive. You become radiant. Your stillness draws respect, not because you demand it, but because it reveals mastery. People sense when they can't shake you. They feel it. And that feeling commands something deeper than fear. It commands trust. In a world driven by impulse, the calm mind is revolutionary. While others exhaust themselves chasing validation, the Stoic stands firm, unbothered, steady in his course. He becomes a mirror that reflects the truth. Only the unshaken can see clearly. Stillness doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring about the right things. It's not the absence of emotion, it's the presence of direction. It's the discipline of using emotion as a servant, not a master. It's the quiet confidence of knowing that nothing external can truly disturb what's anchored within. This is the essence of Stoic power, the ability to stay still in a world that's constantly shaking. When everyone else reacts, you observe. When they rage, you reason. When they fall apart, you remain whole. And in that stillness, you stop being part of the chaos. You become the calm others search for but rarely find. Because the one who stays still when the storm hits doesn't just survive it. He defines it. When the storm passes, what remains? Not the noise, not the words thrown in anger, not the endless explanations or the petty arguments. What remains is who you were when the wind was howling. Your composure, your awareness, your steadiness. That's what defines a man, not how loudly he can shout in peace, but how quietly he can stand in chaos. You'll realize that most of your pain never came from what happened. It came from your reaction to it. You were not destroyed by their insult, but by your need to defend yourself. You were not broken by rejection, but by your refusal to accept it. You were not enslaved by the event, but by your inability to stay still before it. Every wound of the mind begins with a reaction. The Stoic learns to see this. He begins to notice the patterns, how the same kind of people trigger the same kind of response, how the same fears keep repeating, how the same anger disguises itself as righteousness. He learns that the mind, when untrained, becomes its own enemy. It drags him from peace to pain, from calm to chaos, with the flick of a thought. So he turns inward. He watches his impulses as they rise like waves forming in the distance. He lets them come, lets them pass. He no longer tries to stop the tide. He simply refuses to drown. That is the art of the unshaken mind. The world will not stop testing you. It will keep sending provocations, unfairness, disrespect, loss, betrayal. You will meet people who lie, who gossip, who push your limits, just to see if you'll break. But here's the truth. They're not testing your worth. They're revealing your discipline. A weak mind thinks every offense is personal. A trained mind sees every offense as practice. That's how the Stoic lives, not in avoidance, but in awareness. He expects the storm. He prepares for it. He accepts that he cannot control the sea, but he can strengthen the ship. And one day, you'll find yourself in a moment that would have once shattered you, a harsh word, a sudden disappointment, a betrayal you didn't deserve. You'll feel the old reaction rise, that surge of anger, that pull to defend. But then you'll breathe. You'll see it for what it is, a test of your mastery, not your value. You'll pause. You'll stay silent. And in that silence, something inside you will shift. You'll realize you're no longer at the mercy of the world. You've become the eye of the storm, calm, observing, untouchable. That's the moment you'll understand what Stoicism truly means. It's not about being emotionless. It's about being ungoverned by emotion. It's not about running from conflict. It's about standing so still that conflict loses its power over you. You will lose many things in life: people, opportunities, illusions. But never lose your calm, because once you lose that, everything else owns you. The unshaken mind is not a gift. It's a craft, forged in restraint, sharpened by discipline, strengthened by reflection. And when you live that way, when you've built your inner fortress and made peace your default, the world can no longer play you like a toy. It can only watch in confusion as you remain unmoved, grounded, complete, because those who cannot control you will try to provoke you. Those who cannot match your peace will try to disturb it, but they will fail. Every time, you'll walk through noise and remain silent. You'll be surrounded by storms and remain calm. You'll see chaos unfold and remain clear. And in that moment, you'll know the battle was never outside. It was always within. If you can master that, nothing can shake you again. If you're still here, you're already changing.